So like more like an old school analog call back in 1980s. Is this thing on? Is this thing working?
Can you hear me, man?
Yeah, we got you, man. How you doing?
Oh, perfect, man, perfect. I'm doing great. Let's welcome everybody to Mint Pieces today. We're a couple minutes late, but glad to be here. I was actually waiting for Bitcoin to go to 100K so we can celebrate properly. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So, yeah, we have to bear with the 90K. Yeah, how did you enjoy the ride?
Dude, I'm loving it. I think my last buy at Bitcoin was like 63 or something like that. And I was trying to post a video the other day because I was doing my best to make a point to people who were, like jumping into the market last minute and trying to ride the bandwagon up. And so I pulled up my Coinbase buy history for the last 3 years. And I was gonna just record a video, like a screenshot video, scrolling through all my Bitcoin buys. Because I literally bought Bitcoin down every single day, all the way down into, I think I started buying at like 40 or 50,000 on the last run. And I literally bought Bitcoin every single day for the last 3 years, all the way down and then all the way back up until like 60. And so I was going to post that and just like to demonstrate the idea that like if you really want to make money or create wealth, you have to get in front of the curve. And so many people are trying to get on top of the curve when the curve is already curved, if that makes sense. And like that preparation, that getting in front of it is really where the wealth is created. So yeah, for me, I mean, looking back on those buys and like suffering, like putting more money than I really thought I should have into the token back then. Not skipping date nights and skipping vacations and all this other kind of stuff to really create some wealth, making all those sacrifices. Like, yeah, it feels great, man. And I think I wish more and more people could just understand that, like, if you stay in the tunnel and the trench long enough and you do right action, that you will get paid. So long as you're dealing with, quality tokens, which I think is one of the things that we're talking about here, or quality stocks or quality real estate or whatever the thing is that you're happening to, put yourself in. So, yeah, so it's been fun. Even, wifey who isn't really excited about this stuff is kind of funny. She, she got really excited the other day and so she's been watching it and, I don't know, it's a phenomenon. I think we're all very lucky to be at this time and place in history, to be witnessing what we're witnessing. And, I think it's going to be a lot of great things for a lot of great people. So yeah, it's good times. And, yeah, so what's up, Daria, Maria, Velo, Pierre, my man, what's going on? Flarn, good to see you, bud. Rob, Soul Rockers, Julian, let's have a good little conversation today. Hope you guys are doing well. Request the mic. Let's check in. Let's chit chat. Let's see what's going on in the space. And I'll turn it back over to you there, Alex.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember going through my emails and seeing that my first Bitcoin buy was actually in 2016. And I think back then I held it for like 8 weeks, I guess, and then sold it again and felt like, wow, I made big profits. Um, I think you actually have a story that you had an opportunity to buy Bitcoin very early, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was exposed to Bitcoin back in the day. Like, I mean, one of my first businesses was web development. So being a business owner in that space, like I was exposed to what was going on and I sort of ignored it. And I actually set up a miner on a laptop back in the day and just never took the time to actually figure out how to mine it. So I missed that. And then it started to run a little bit and I bought, 3 or 4 or 5 Bitcoin for, I don't know, maybe $100 back in the day. And then I think I sold them when Bitcoin hit 2,500, thinking that, oh man, I'm rich, I made like, 10 or 12 grand or whatever it was on those 4 or 5 Bitcoin. And I mean, it was just such an unbelievable move on something that didn't exist that, I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that it could go any higher. So I sold with a gain. Obviously, it was a big gain, and I was happy about that. But of course, looking back now, it wasn't the smart move in retrospect. But at the time, as an investor, it was a very smart thing to do. So I can't beat myself up about it, but at the same token, I should have probably, sold half, which is what I would normally do if I'm doing something speculative. I'd sell enough to get my initial investment back plus, and then just let the rest of it ride. And I didn't do that in this particular case for whatever reason. I think we were buying another rental property and I needed the cash. So I think that's one of the reasons I did it.
Yeah, I think most of us have history with Bitcoin, somehow getting in touch with it very early and, kind of missing it. Maria, what about you? Hello, first of all. I hope you're doing great. Do you have a Bitcoin story as well?
Hey guys, how are you doing? Well, actually, I do. I'm too about regrets, sadly. First of all, my partner was like you, Archer. Like he was, in touch with crypto, like super, super early. I'm talking about, I don't know, even before even I met him. When those kind of shady websites, they send you Bitcoin by playing, I don't know, video games or whatever, right? He got it, obviously, back then. He was like, I don't know what is this. He sold it. And now I'm here like, why you did that? And then also I remember, and I was talking with my partner actually this morning about this, like, do you remember when we were in Malta and Bitcoin was like 3K, like how much we should have buy back then? Obviously I didn't, like I wasn't that much into crypto back then, but well, I guess we learned our lesson. Obviously is about timing, and not everyone, even more related to the very, very beginnings, no one knew what they were doing, obviously. But it's really impressive. Like seriously, I'm in a wow moment. Like we are actually living an historical moment, like almost reaching 100K. Like come on, like how many times we dream about this, like yes, in whatever year we're gonna see Bitcoin reaching a 100K, but it is now happening. I don't know, it feels so surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, it took some time, especially. I mean, we've gone through 4 years of basically waiting for it, and now as it came, I mean, right now we even see some altcoins doing very good. I think Adam did some pretty decent run today, going up to $7.50, I think. And yeah, I know many people are waiting for that big altcoin season because the people I know, a lot of them only hold altcoins because they hear the story of Bitcoin won't be able to do 50x from here, so I'll rather buy, I don't know, Cardano. What actually Cardano is doing pretty good as well, and Ripple too, but the smaller and the mid caps, not sure what's happening to them. I mean, Jason and I, we wanted to discuss the topic of whether utility is needed for cryptocurrencies, or if you can like run a coin up just based on hype. So yeah, let's maybe jump into this. And Jason, you can tell me, what do you think is like, what do you say, what do you think makes a cryptocurrency valuable in the first place?
I mean, I think value, as it relates to anything, is just, it is a meme. Value itself is a meme, right? So when we use the word like meme coin, it's almost like a misnomer in that context, because when we're looking at stores of value, they can be temporary and they can be long term, or they can be forever. And I think in terms of like stores of value, what I'm looking for personally is I'm looking for a forever play. I'm not looking for something that I have to dance in and out of. And for traditional investors for years, basically the way it's been working is real estate has been the property of choice, because real estate would protect you from inflation. And then if you rented it out, your rental income was also protected from inflation because you could raise rents as inflation goes up. So for years and years and years, wealthy people have used real estate as a savings account. Because let's face it, like if in the States, I don't know how it is in other countries, maybe you guys can educate me, but in the States, like I don't know, if I put 50 grand in my savings account in the States, it earns like 11 cents at the end of the month, right? Like it's ridiculous. It's like 0.002% interest or something like that. And I mean, you can get CDs and you can get higher interest rates in other and other accounts. But for the most part, like most people aren't making any decent interest on anything that they're saving. So if you're not making interest on what you've accumulated and then inflation is running as high as it has been, then technically you're losing every single day, right? So, like I learned this back in the day when I first made a little bit of money. It's like once you get the money, it's like, what do you do with it becomes the next problem. Because if you just sit on it, it devalues and it depreciates over time. So for years and years, real estate has been the pristine property that wealthy people have used to preserve that. But I think that's shifting now into the world of Bitcoin ever since Saylor came on the scene and started preaching, pristine property and what it looks like. What does pristine property look like? Pristine, 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 and then like explaining what that means in terms of, like if I own a piece of property, or Saylor likes to use the example of if I own a building in New York, I can't move the building, right? And the building is subject to tax, and the building is subject to the political environment. So if a new mayor or governor or state legislature comes in and they decide they want to change the property tax structure, then your property tax goes up. And then when you do the math versus inflation, at the end of the day, if you're paying, 5, 6, 7, 8% tax in addition to the value of the property, when you go to sell, what have you really gained? And so that's the big question, right? So if you could take a piece of property like Bitcoin, which the IRS has determined Bitcoin is taxable as property, if you could put your wealth in something like that that can't be sort of devalued over time via government, via inflation, via all these little tax schemes to where, bits and pieces of your wealth are stolen from you over time, then you can preserve your wealth and continue to appreciate the value that you've actually invested your human capital in creating, right? I think a lot of people forget that, like money is not necessarily just a store of value. If you've gone into the marketplace and you've earned it, then basically what you've done is you've traded your life force for the money, right? Like if I commission, like Daria or Maria to do a piece of work, or Sandra, if I say, hey, listen, guys, I want you guys to create a piece of art specifically for me, and it's going to be worth X amount of dollars, and we agree, and then we do the transaction, they've traded their life force to create that. And in exchange for their life force, I'm giving them something of value, right? And I think the average person doesn't think in these terms because when the average person gets their paycheck, they've already been stolen from. Like the government's already taken its portion before you ever get yours, right? Income tax basically makes all of your money, the government's money's first, and then they give you what's left over, right? So if you think in terms of how can I preserve my precious life force, well, I want to put it in something as pristine as possible. And at present, that looks to be Bitcoin. So can other tokens have value? Yes, of course. Ethereum has had this reputation for being the world's computer, right? So if I want to invest in world computation, then I can buy Ethereum. Solana, has been sort of pitched as the next greatest sort of app platform for business, for enterprise, for all kinds of these cool little technical things that we can do. We've got Cosmos, which is like the chain of chains, right? So what you're going to see happen over time is these other chains that are feature chains, we'll call them feature chains, basically they're going to consolidate into the best of the best, right? So I don't need 2 Ethereums. I don't need a second Solana. I don't need 3 or 4 Cosmos. I just need one that's doing it the best. And then the capital will go where it's treated best, right? The same thing will happen with meme coins. And the only problem with meme coins is like, how long can you sustain the hype? Because at the end of the day, right, like you might ride the hype cycle up, but when, the little Telegram group behind the scenes decides to sell and dump on the community, and I use air quotes community here because you don't really dump on someone you care about. Like the air quotes community gets dumped on. Like how long is that sustainable? Well, it just depends on the whims of those particular people and the way that they're thinking. But at no point in time would that be considered a permanent store of value. So for me, I'm just looking at this continuum and I'm thinking in terms of what is the most permanent store of value for my precious life force. It's certainly never going to be meme coins or shit coins. Bitcoin is looking like where I want to be. And then I like the top tier assets, the top tier feature coins like Ethereum, Solana, even Atom. Some of these guys are doing things differently. And that's my picture. Like I try to keep it very, very simple and stay away from the noise.
many argue that real world use cases drive sustainable value, and you mentioned Ethereum. I think BNB in some way as well, because they both have or play a pretty crucial role in DeFi, NFTs, and obviously exchanges. So, what do you think? How important is utility in general for cryptocurrencies? I mean, you just mentioned that we see many utility-driven projects fail to gain traction despite having strong fundamentals because, as you said, we do not need two Ethereums or two BNBs or two Solanas. But do you think utility is still important for projects launching today?
Yeah, I think it's a necessity if you plan to have a token. And maybe Florin can talk to this if you want to come up. I think that you've got some thoughts on tokens and utility. But like at the end of the day, what crypto is doing in a sort of roundabout way of skirting all of the normal channels that you would have to go to if you're going to launch a public company, crypto is basically mirroring that to, I guess you would say, the private market, but really it's just like people in the know right now. We like to do a raise. Like back in the day, if you sold an NFT project and you sold 10,000 pieces or 5,000 pieces or whatever, the promise was like, if you buy into this, we're going to build something, right? And then of course, within that project, you might have a specific token that's tied to it that could be used to gamify what's happening inside that project and give it utility. And that's a perfectly viable use. But at the end of the day, like outside of that environment, the question is there any utility there, right? And in most cases, the answer is going to be no. So if you can't maintain your community or treat your buyers or your marketplace in such a way that it sees the value and wants to stay and grow with you, then it's forever limited to that little bubble. So then we enter the space of exchanges. Okay, well, I can exchange this for that. Okay, that's a fantastic idea because now you can get out of your little bubble and go into someone else's little bubble. And eventually what happens is you just keep trading until you get to the bubble that you feel most comfortable in. But if you just watch the market, at all times, people are constantly moving to the place where they feel like their capital is being treated best, right? And so, maybe a way too long answer to your question is just the fact that no matter who you are, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what token you're holding, I mean, your ultimate goal is to find the spot where your capital is treated the best and preserved the longest. And so what does that look like? I don't think anyone here would argue that that would be a meme coin, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Meme coins are basically like the flip side. While they lack obvious utility, their communities have created a value through engagement, and you could almost say a cultural relevance. But what do you think? What role do community and social media play in driving hype around a coin?
I mean, I think for what we've seen right now, it's just been purchased plays, right? Or groups of people operating in tandem to generate this energy and this sort of FOMO experience around the tokens. And that's been the case since like that early NFT bull run. So I don't see that changing really ever because human psychology doesn't change. And, at the end of the day, it still works. Like we just saw this on Stargaze, right? Like Stargaze, one of the reasons that I like Stargaze is because when Maria approached me about Stargaze, we were talking about like the prevalence of artwork and how we could basically use Stargaze to perpetuate this idea of high quality visuals, right? And so over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of sort of shitty looking art come out of Stargaze, if I'm being honest. And a lot of it was just tied to like hypey type projects. And some of those projects are just duplicates of what's already happening on Cosmos. But you saw people still rush in and buy these things, right? Because the FOMO always works. Human psychology doesn't change, and it's never going to change. And so when we look at the market as a whole, like what I'm looking for in terms of like mature growth is how are we sort of thinking in terms of long-term preservation of what we've created here, right? Like we've got this idea that NFTs can be immutable on chain forever, but that's not the same thing as like a meme coin that is going to perpetuate value forever. That's not going to happen. There's too many of them. There's not enough liquidity, right? Every day I wake up, there's thousands more introduced, which again continues to divide the liquidity amongst, buyers and sellers. So you see the market caps continue to trend downward, 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 downward. And so at the end of the day, like, do you really want to, like be in a place where you can't really see a preservation happening, where you don't really see the technology or the ideas honored? Or do you want to be part of the people or the process or the sort of system that is continuing to build and honor it? And I mean, from my way of thinking, like having been through quite a few market cycles since like the financial crisis of the 2000s to, even crazier things like that, where we saw real estate values basically plummet. Having seen market cycles and seen where people put value and saw value, you saw both sides of the market see value in all of the different sort of products on offer, whether it was debt in the case of real estate or property or land or, loans from a bank. Wherever people saw value, they put their money. But the only people that made out were the people who were able to hold something real through the trouble, right? So the question is like, how do we hold something real through all trouble? And I mean, it's trending toward like those top tier tokens right now, and that's why you're seeing capital flow that way. At least that's kind of like my 10,000-foot view of it. But let's see what Florin has to say. I'm curious.
Hey, yeah, thanks for asking me to come up here. Yeah, I mean, and can you hear me? Am I coming in okay?
Yeah, we got you, brother. Go ahead.
All right, right on. So, the way I think about just value in general is, as root, it's the interface between at that moment, like, the buyer and the seller. If you have somebody who's selling and someone willing to buy it, that's the value. That's the price at that current moment in time. And people are making bids on the potential that price is going to go, up if they're buying, and people who are selling are, want to migrate to either safety or migrate to something that they think is going to go, up faster or go down less or whatever. So it's, in my opinion, it's very much like a social and psychological thing. And I think that we're seeing that play out during this sort of, meme coin super cycle where it's it's, thousands of meme coins being launched a day. The initial hype where, the sophisticated folks are able to work as a group to all get in together, create this massive pump, extract a bunch of value, and then kind of like repeat that cycle like hundreds of times over and over and over. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Now there are the established kind of meme coins or like these ideas that stick around longer because they came first or because there's people that just really have like an emotional connection to them. I think like Dogecoin is a good example. Tens of billions of dollars worth of market capitalization. It's been around, for, the better part of a decade, maybe more than a decade at this point. And then like Bitcoin is like the ultimate, right? Like the Bitcoin white paper solved the Byzantine generals problem and was able to create a digital asset that, made it so that you can't double spend it. Essentially, you can a way to send money via email. And at the end of the day, like when we talk about, like when you were talking about kind of like, okay, you want to be able to hold something real during like the hard times, so that you can either preserve capital or potentially even accumulate capital from those who need to sell to make ends meet. And Bitcoin kind of being from a digital asset standpoint, being like the sort of granddaddy of it all. Like, I 100% agree with that, but ultimately, like, I don't think we're there yet, right? So in hard times, I feel like the dollar is still king. During during times of risk, people flock to the dollar. Right now, the dollar is the most money of all money. But maybe sometime in the future, Bitcoin will overtake that. I don't know. I've read a lot of interesting conversation like about the nature of money on X recently, because every once in a while, Ethan Buckman, the guy who co-founded the Cosmos Network, you know, he writes extensively on like what is money, as well as sort of financial analyst, hedge fund manager named Lynn Alden. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she publishes like a monthly newsletter and has written a couple books, and you know, manages this fund, and she talks about the moneyness of Bitcoin. Actually just like released a new book about it, which I just recently started reading. It's a pretty good read. You know, I don't think that Bitcoin is the most money of all money, because it's not the most liquid in the sense of, you know, you can't buy anything with Bitcoin, but I do think that you can buy anything with dollars, and Bitcoin is relatively easy to convert to dollars. So, you know, there's, you know, Bitcoin right now serves as a middleman, similar, you know, for institutions, potentially similar to the way that gold was that, you know, for many decades. But you know, we're talking about assets that, I don't know, it's interesting. Like I kind of get into this like recursive line of thinking when I think about, you know, money and value, because ultimately, like, it's the value of something is seemingly very forward looking. It's like, what do people anticipate? It's like, and this is going to sound incredibly reductive, but I feel like everything kind of boils down to the fact that like these systems that we created are like, okay, let me just start from the very kind of beginning, which is, in my opinion, like money is simply like a technology. It's like a piece of social technology that we all like agreed to have, and now, you know, we're in this new era of money where anybody can create it. But you know, I mean, ultimately, it's like when, okay, like let's look at Spice right now. Like Spice is a meme coin on Osmosis that has an enormous amount of like accelerant being poured on it, because there's a whole bunch of folks in Cosmos that are looking for something that everyone can get behind. And the sentiment behind Spice has, from my vantage, everything that I've seen has been positive only. And that's, you know, a game changer in terms of like community coins or meme coins. Like if everybody is taking a positive sentiment, and the folks with a ton of money, like the whales in the coin, are instead of you know, having like short term profit seeking motives, as opposed to more of like a long term profit seeking motive, or even zero profit seeking motive, just like wanting to feel something and buying and holding just for the simple act. Like, you know, when people talk about like what's the utility of like a meme coin, it's like, well, there, or like that meme coin doesn't have utility. Well, you know, if it has like a funny picture or like an interesting idea, that is literally a utility, similar to like an NFT. Like if I get to mint an NFT and have like a unique experience because I get to see this piece of art that didn't exist before, the utility is the joy that I experience when I get to look at this interesting image. That is utility. Utility just means like the pleasure you get from something. And so if you know, looking at the chart of Spice and seeing it being more or less up only makes you feel something, then that in and of itself is like a utility. And that creates this sort of self-referential or like recursive cycle of a growth, like, and it causes more and more people to kind of come in and buy it, which causes the price to go up, which causes more people to come in and buy it, and potentially it will reach escape velocity, and institutions like in crypto will just, you know, buy some so that they can allocate a portion of their portfolio to it. Like, that's the holy grail of like meme coins. And then, you want to get it listed. And what's great about, Spice, for example, is that it's also kind of in some way attached to the very kind of real world approach that Akash has taken, where they, have physical, that they provide a product and a service that's more than just number go up. It's an actual legitimate product that people want to pay for, and so that like combination is kind of, that combination of the two is it's incredibly powerful. I think we're seeing it, and all paired with the bull market that we're in right now, and everything else. Like, I think everything kind of came together in a perfect time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like rambling here, but I think that my main point here is, if people, it's important to remember that utility, the word, like, essentially just means like the pleasure that you like get out of something. And so, utility can be quite literally anything. And belief is more or less the whole reason why any why like money exists at all, right? Because like you believed that it had value, and over time, like, these things have evolved. But yeah, I really do think that I think that that's an important point to make. I don't know, but it definitely makes me very introspective when I start really thinking about it, because it's almost like too much to wrap my head around.
Love it, man. Appreciate the ramble, man. Keep rambling. I'm just going to pose a question and I'm going to turn it over to Maria. So when we're talking about utility, do you see a difference between utility and value? And I'll just let you think on that one and turn it over to Maria. Go ahead, Maria.
No, 100%. Like, I totally agree with Florence said, like, in the sense, like, when I stop and think about all of this, it's like, sometimes it's like too much, like, okay, we're not going anywhere to, to an end point. In my case, I will say, like, it's also depend on what you're doing here, in the sense, like, if I want to put my money like as a safe investment, I will go and put it on Bitcoin, right? For me, the rest of altcoins, except from, as we mentioned, like ETH, Solana, and so on, the rest for me is just my playground. Like, I know whatever I'm putting there, I really don't know for how long they're gonna be. Like, I'm putting it there with already the knowledge that it can be lost, right? So I think that is the difference. Also, as well, I have to say, like, in terms of utility on Song, if someone wants to launch a new token, there is no need for that. Like, there is no need nowadays to have like a current proper plan prepared with 100 different steps. And at some point, it's really sad, because you see, like, projects and group behind tokens who have this actually legit, plan, and with really great ideas. They are seeing nothing, because another one with an influencer or, with contacts behind the scenes, cool pump whatever meme coin or whatever fan token till they want, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not looking, when I'm investing, like, as a safe investing, I have the ones that I know. And then for the rest, for me, it's the playground. Like, and it's funny though, because I'm always, like, arguing with my partner about this. Like, he's talking about whatever project, and yes, they have this and that. And he started, explaining everything to me. And I'm always the black sheep, in the sense, like, I don't care. I really don't care what they have behind. Like, I don't trust it. Like, for me, it's still gonna be a rag if they want to be. So you don't have to sell me all of this, because seriously, I'm just playing in this playground with whatever money I have, and I wish for the best, but obviously knowing, that I'm making a huge risk there.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's well said. I think I made a tweet this past week, and it was something to the effect of, like in the same way that the lottery is a tax on people who can't do math, meme coins are a tax on people who can't learn a lesson. It's like at the end of the day, like how many times do you need to get screwed before you realize that, most of these things are going to be valueless at the end of the day, whether they have utility or not. And that doesn't mean, like Florin was saying, like you can't have fun with it or enjoy it or, you know, derive some sort of pleasure from it. But that's different from having, I think, like a long-term use case. And that's when I think of utility, I'm thinking of like a long-term use case. So like, if Bitcoin is like if Bitcoin's long-term use case is forever money that's immutable, that can't be stolen from me, then that's what I'm going for. But if it's tech that I'm going for, maybe I'm looking at Solana or maybe I'm looking at Cosmos, different utilities for different things. Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
No, just that thing, because I remember like the first bull run that I wasn't really invested on crypto. I'm talking about 2017. I think I shared this, but I came into crypto on the 18, which obviously not the best year to enter. But I remember knowing about NEO. This is a dinosaur, okay? NEO in the space. And I remember I was shocked in the last bull run when I still was seeing people buying it and that coin pumping. Because for me, back on 2021, 2022, for me, NEO was a dinosaur. Was like, okay, there's no way. But that will prove you, like, seriously, we know nothing. And also at the end of the day, normies, when they arrive here, obviously now we have meme coins and so on, but back then, what they were buying the ones that, the old mate told them, like, okay, Cardano, okay, these old dinosaurs back then. So also makes me wonder, like, we really don't know nothing on how these tokens are gonna develop, because what is behind, for example, Ripple, right? Like, what is utility? What are they doing? And still, after all this, drama and so on that was back then, still in the next bull run, the token was pumping. So I don't know. It's just it's just fun, I guess.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Really is a great point. Like, if you think of like the top tier alts, right? Really, the top tier alts are basically meme coins with utility, if you think about it. And money will flow there so long as people see a long-term utility there. And they will, obviously they'll run with hype cycles like everything will. But at the end of the day, what are you left with is the question, right? So like, like if I'm looking for short term, I can trade the hype, but I can't really buy and hold the hype, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, in terms of like utility versus value, I'm curious, Florin, if you have some thoughts there. And I just want to say what's up to Miro. What's up, buddy? Good to see you back. CQ, good to see you guys back as well. If you'd like to pop up and say anything, feel free. And yeah, Florin, go ahead, brother.
No, I think I agree with Maria there. I just think I still kind of go back to sort of first principles, like if you're creating something, the goal, I guess, for the creator, or the motives for the creator, there can be lots of motives for the creator. Like for me personally, like when I'm creating, like if it's like digital art, to like release in a collection, which I've done a few times now, and I'm going to continue to do so. My motivation is to create something that would be enjoyable for me personally to mint. So like I'm not going to release something that I don't like get some small, like or even like small amount of pleasure out of like the context of what that is. And then therein lies the question of like, okay, so like what do you price it at, right? Like because you need to be aware of the ability. So it's more like, even if someone says like, okay, I think this thing is worth, 1 Bitcoin, or like, $5,000 or whatever. If the ability of the community that has access to like buy that asset is not at that level, then you have to kind of rethink the way that you are valuing that on the market, right? You need to be able to put it out there so that there's a bid. There's going to be a bid where people can afford to mint it, and they feel like they got their money's worth. out of the like the experience of minting, for example, right? Like if because otherwise nobody's going to mint it, and then nobody gets to see the thing that you created. And so I really think, like, again, that still goes back to the interface, like between the buyer and the seller. So like you have to meet the buyers where they're at, um, or you have to, potentially go find a new, environment to seek out different buyers, right? So like something that's priced on, Stargaze, it may be a little bit different than something that would be priced on ordinals, because ordinals collectors have deeper pockets. Typically, I would say, or the vast majority of them, right? Even just using Bitcoin is like just to use the chain is like more expensive than most like mints, in Stargaze. And so like, you have to like kind of reflect that in the way that you price things. And then there's like just the emotional attachment to communities. Like for me, like I'm basically just, from an NFT standpoint, like I only am on Stargaze these days because I feel like I'm at home, and I enjoy like the warmth of that community. Like there's utility in that, right? Like that I get pleasure from the fact that I can be amongst like-minded individuals who all kind of like share a relatively common, like, set of values and goals. And I see that frequently when like someone comes to the like to the blockchain to, let's say, mint some collection of low effort or trash or stolen art or, copycat stuff. There's like a palpable like revulsion. The community like is repulsed by it, and I'm like, wow, like I agree with that sentiment, and all these other people also agree, and that also makes me feel good. So, there's that side of it too. Like, I'm not really on Stargaze to make money. I'm on Stargaze to participate in this opportunity to create like interesting and stupid fun crap and throw it out there, and just enjoy like collecting and minting and doing all that. I bought and hold Bitcoin and Ethereum and some Solana and stuff, and that's kind of like for, long term, potential, financial freedom. Stargaze is more about being able to really like use a blockchain for, like for me to create and publish like digital art. And like the reason why I created like the Shitmost cryptocurrency, and like the reason why that community has been a lot of fun for me, at least, was because there was like a ton of negativity around Cosmos like at the time when I launched it. And what I was trying to do was, kind of make a statement about the negative side of things, and see if the people that are still like down with the idea of like the internet blockchains like wanted to just like play around and have some fun, and sort of turn that like negativity like upside down. And more or less, I would call it, instead of like a meme coin, it's more like a satire or like parody coin. And now it's turned into like this really robust but small community of people that just kind of like want to build and support other projects, and small projects and big projects. I mean, Sloths is part of the SEZ, which is crazy and awesome, and just kind of like see where this goes. And this is like a for me, like with Shitmost and SEZ, it's like, it's just a little bit like every week, probably for like the next 20-30 years, maybe for the rest of my life. It'll just be this like really fun little thing. And what's great is I'm getting an opportunity to kind of really dive deep into the infrastructure layer of the interchain, and see how all the pieces really fit together. And then like right now, I just like through the SEZ like wallet, like deployed this contract, or not contract, but this proposal on the Shitmost hub to, you know, facilitate like more efficient ways to like grow liquidity on the hub, because I'm curious to see how that like works and plays out. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're really trying to lean into this concept of like alchemy, where and this is like a value thing, right? Like alchemy meaning, you know, taking some material and turning it into gold. Well, in the case with like Shitmost, it's like even more extreme, because it's like, can we take shit and like turn it into gold? So we're gonna like, you know, make this like Shitmost Bitcoin LP, and the LP is going to be held by the Shitmost Hub DAO, right? And so when Bitcoin fees accrue to this LP, it's just going to go to the DAO, and the DAO is managed by the holders and stakers of Shitmost. And so in a way, like the by there being volume of trading Shitmost, it generates, you know, satoshis, small amounts of Bitcoin that then accumulate to the stakers of the Shitmost hub, and we're turning shit into gold. And I just like that, like just the concept is like a lot of fun and like kind of hilarious. And so like there's that, like, you know, we're constantly coming up with these like fun ideas and trying them out. And yeah, it is a bit of an experiment. Similar to like the way the mad scientists say like everything is an experiment. I think that experimentation is like a form of, you know, it's like a truth seeking, you know, activity that like most people are drawn to, and I, you know, I personally just, I can't get enough of it.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I love where your mind is, brother. I love the fact that you're thinking along those terms. I mean, we actually have a very similar value system in terms of like turning shit into gold. I mean, obviously our project was, you know, we've talked about this a few times, but we were a rug that we brought back to life, and our internal token is AU, which is short for excuse me, which is short for Aurum, which is the chemical symbol for gold. And so we use gold as like a very symbolic thing inside our community as well. So I can vibe with you there, man, for sure. Maria, you had your hand up. Did you want to speak on that?
Oh, yes, no, but I was laughing because I think, you know, like Flan couldn't explain it even better. But at the end of the day, I think like if you realize it's all about the place you vibe with, right? Like the place you find the community who vibe with you. And that's why, for example, Fram is more these days, yes, on Stargaze. In my case, it's the same. Like I only mint on Stargaze or Polygon because it's where I have, you know, my community and the people and the art I vibe with. So I think that is also important. Also, I wanted to ask you something, but it's so out of the topic. Like when we were talking about meme coins, I think, you know, every new season, let's say, we have like something new. I remember we have the icons at the beginnings. Maybe memes are gonna be that in that sense. What we're gonna have in the next cycle, we don't know. But if you realize there's always something, right, with this kind of triggers, like, okay, we're launching this, a bunch of people, only the ones who have the access to the information get a bunch of money, then all of this attract a bunch of normies to invest because they're looking for, you know, this reward. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the same, right?
Yeah, you mean in terms of incentivizing people to play with the number go up technology? Are you still there, Maria?
Oh, yes, I was ragging. I was like, shit. Yes, exactly that. Like, if you realize at the end, like, even though now maybe people who are joining into the space are like, wow, Mincoin, this is so new. Well, we have icons before, you know, like, this is just another way to do so. So, and where are now those tokens that they run this huge, you know, I don't know if it's the name, how do you say it? ECOs, well, ECOs in Spanish, obviously, but ACOs, please correct me.
What's the word you're trying to say? What is it?
ICO.
Oh, ICO?
Yeah,
ICO?
ICO.
Oh, like initial coin offering, you mean?
Yes, remember that not last cycle, the other one was all about that, right? Like those token, they came into the market, everyone was, trying to jump into there, and then they pump a bunch. But now, years after, it's like, where are they? And I think it's going to happen the same with meme coins. We just, need to educate people to actually being able to realize that that is going to be, what they can expect.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. I want to just say a quick thing on pricing. It looks like Flan had to leave, but he was talking about like the market is the place where the buyer meets the seller, and I 100% agree with that. And like if we look at meme coins or the major tokens or even artwork, and Maria, you and I have had this conversation a lot. I think maybe even Daria and I have had this conversation. But when you're pricing anything in the marketplace, if your strategy for selling it is just let me find a low enough price to where someone will buy it, that is the wrong strategy because it brings in the lowest caliber individual possible. So like when we're talking about a marketplace where buyers meet sellers, I think a lot of times in crypto, we've forgotten that you can actually choose your buyers. And you choose your buyers by the way that you speak to the marketplace. And so I think one of the big problems with meme coins and also some of the NFT projects that we see drop, they're just people are giving their shit away because they don't know how to price it and they don't know how to identify their buyers, and they're afraid to gate their community or afraid to gate their Discord or their followers. They're afraid to exclude. And I think to really create that core group, you have to be willing to exclude people on some level because the people that you want to be inside your community are going to be the ones that are there to support you, whether it's a meme coin or whether it's artwork or whatever the case may be. If they're just there to make a buck, then they're not going to serve you in the long run. So I just kind of wanted to make that point, and maybe Florin and I can talk about that at some point in the future. And if you guys have thoughts on that, feel free. Looks like we got CQ, we got Miro. Did one of you guys wanted to pop up and chime in?
Hey everyone, how we doing? Yeah, no, interesting conversation again. I've written down shitmoss. I'm gonna have to definitely check that one out. But yeah, no, just some quick thoughts. I thought that regarding tokens, I think for long-term success, they do need a utility like this. Obviously, so much of the conversation at the moment is about meme coins and such like that. But even if I think about something like Doge, people say, "Oh, there's no utility," but actually, whatever people think of it, they've got like Doginals. I don't think they've like really taken off, but Doginals and like DRC20 tokens to kind of mimic BRC20s and ordinals and stuff. So, but obviously that's slightly different again because it keeps on getting hyped by the likes of Elon Musk, but that can't kind of last forever, that kind of hype thing. So I think absolutely for like long term, like a token needs some sort of utility. Obviously these, I always think of crypto, Web3, whatever we want to call them, project blockchain projects and businesses. They are like super high risk startups, so obviously even if you've got utility, that in no way guarantees any kind of success, but I think it means you've got a product or service or something. But as we said, that could be art as utility, but it can also be lots of other things. I think the other thing I was thinking about is like these, like the way, and Maria was talking about the ICOs, and like I was just thinking about like IPOs, like initial public offerings in traditional markets, when a company goes public on the stock exchange in its country or whatever. And for me, this is what these tokens, this is the way they're actually kind of raising capital, like, but they're almost like not necessarily ready for all that comes with that, because at the end of the day, it's like now you've got hundreds or thousands of kind of shareholders. I know obviously that kind of terminology is, like then we get into a whole thing about like the SEC stuff, and all the rest of it. But if you think of them as shareholders, so I think a lot of these businesses, like they're taking on all these shareholders, and obviously that brings a lot of pressure with it. There are companies like in traditional markets that IPO'd. I think was Virgin in the UK one of them, where then Branson like took it back private again. Because it comes with a lot of shite to deal with, sort of thing. So I think there's issues around that, and then but the other thing I was thinking about was like meme coins. Like just this week, because I jumped on this call with you guys last week, and we were talking about meme coins, but just in the week gone, I've started to see some kind of sentiment shifting. I've seen some stats coming out about like how many people lose money in this kind of meme coin casino, and it's as we would imagine, it's significant. It's like 70% of people lose their money, and only a small percentage actually make any money, kind of thing. So I think, like Maria was saying, like we almost have to warn people. I don't know if we can warn people. I think they're just getting it's hype. Someone said, I think Arch was saying it's like human nature, if you like, at this point in our consciousness. Maybe we'll evolve one, please God, like above that at some point. But we're all subject to it. We're all subject to FOMO and stuff and all these kind of things. We're brought up in a culture that where that's the thing. So, but yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is I think that the meme coin thing it's just a fad in this cycle. Even I think some meme coins will prevail, but I think it's the reality is people talk about having fun with meme coins, but actually it's not fun losing a ton of money. So it's fun when you're up, and it's fun when you think you might be up. But when everything literally, like all those things go to zero, people aren't going to be talking about having fun. And I think if I think about meme coins, I think some of the fun aspect other than number go up, blah blah blah, is like I like the creativity of it. We were talking about this last week, and even with the shitmoss thing, it's like I love the fact that people are just creating stuff and like riffing on it, and then it gets taken up by other, and then it kind of snowballs, and it's fun. And I like I'm following this particular meme coin. I'm not even going to name the ticker. I don't want to, but I like they're just riffing on like an old piece of technology, and it kind of makes me laugh. And when I see like there's so much creativity behind it, I think it's really cool. But is it sustainable? Nope. Will it be here in 6 months? Probably not. Will it be here in a year or two? Definitely not. So yeah, just some thoughts.
Great stuff, brother. I think you're spot on. I think Florin was kind of riffing on that as well, right? Like you can see tons of creativity, and this is kind of painful. Like the artist in me just kind of cringes every time I see like a ton of work go into this creative work, and then like there's the practical side of me that's like, oh shit, man, this is going away in like 3 months, and all of this creative work is just going to fall by the wayside, and all of this beautiful art or this wonderful storyline is just going to fall away. It just kind of makes my heart sink. But yeah, I can smell what you're stepping in there, brother. Let's go over to Mira. What's up, buddy? I know you're launching a shit coin, or you're doing something with shit coins, aren't you?
Howdy, guys. How you doing? Yeah. We, we kind of do it in a way, or actually, I did it in the way that was like very me, I suppose, because just a fella came to me in the morning, and he was like, "Hey, this is there is a platform launching, sort of like a bomb.fun. They launched 2 weeks ago, and they are launching the BNB today." And I was like, "Huh, really?" And it was, "Yeah, maybe you should try." I was like, "Oh well, fuck, why not?" So I just jumped on it quickly and just made some art and created the Doge beans, and with I mean, not particular idea in mind, but obviously we were kind of thinking for a while, and there was a lot of people saying that we should have a token, and I personally I don't really see much of a difference between the
Are we rugging, or am I not hearing, or are we
Can you hear
pausing
me?
to reflect on the meme coin market?
Can you hear me? Or?
We can hear you, CQ. I'm not sure if you can hear us. If you can hear me, maybe just do a quick lap and come back, brother.
Huh. So anybody else can hear me?
Yep, we got you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, the thing is that we were thinking about the token, maybe not so fast, but we were thinking about it, and with all these talks about the meme tokens, and even with the Matic Man, we were talking about it many times, like how we don't understand it. So my approach or idea behind it was really, let's understand it from inside. What will happen if 100% that we are the people behind it, and I am the one who created the meme coin, and I know I'm not going to rock, and it's created on the platform. So I said, like, the only thing what can happen is the platform would rock, but that's probably not going to happen, hopefully. So uh, I kind of wanted to see, in that moment, that idea that how it actually will work out, how it works, the ins and outs of it, like the whole tech techniques of it, because like I never even thought about doing something like that, but it was just a spur of the moment, and strangest thing happened is that a lot of people from our community kind of jumped on it, like they bought in, and from what I see on the chart, most of the people who are in that meme coin are people who literally I know for a year or two from the community, and we are the first we are the first meme coin on that platform, first BNB meme coin, and we are trending the whole week, and we have like the chart is like you could see the rest of them has like 20% and less, and we have 78% growth for the week. So it's probably, I don't know, it's interesting to watch it. I don't know if we will actually have that massive pump on that platform because it's fairly new, but yeah, we are kind of going through the process, and making checkpoints, like what we do, and what happened, and what I had to do to create that meme coin, and now we'll have to create the content for it and so on. So that's that kind of a things. It's kind of I take it as an experience, and if we will succeed and we will have an actual token, we kind of have already a plan B in place what we're going to do with it, because we will have a token with zero tax. So there will be no tax for us from sales or buys. So, which is, it's not completely bad thing, because like, we are almost like a non-profit. So we just will have a token what we can put into the ecosystem and use. So this is our kind of this is Doge Beans, and probably it's not completely typical meme coin, but we are starting as a meme coin, and we are starting on the platform which creates meme coins. So, well, that's that.
Well, thanks for the heads up, brother. I wish you all the best with it, and you'll have to come back in maybe on next Friday's space and tell us a little bit more about it. We're definitely want to honor everyone's time, and make sure we get out of here at a reasonable hour. But before I do, I just want to say thanks to everyone who popped by. Again, we do these every Friday at 6 p.m. UTC for now. Daria, good to see you. CQ, Rob, Soul Rockers, Julian, and everyone else on the call. We're going to jump off of here just shortly. I'll turn it back over to Alex to get final words. And for those of you guys who are paying attention to the nest or the jumbotron up top, be sure and follow all these guys. We've got a lot of great artists rolling through here. Maria had to go. I think she had to jump on another space. Daria is a fantastic creator. You definitely want to follow her. I put some of her stuff up there. And for those of you guys who don't know about Goodfellas NFT, my partner Alex is behind the branded handle, and we do high quality artwork. We're a high quality artwork IP rates based business on Solana, and we're constantly putting on artists. Dario's one of them. Mario's another one. We just launched another one yesterday, also pinned up in the nest. Her name is Masan. And if you're looking for quality collectibles in a community of people who really honor Web3 and honor quality work, then drop by and join us. We'd love to have you on the next Mint. So yeah, we're super stoked that you guys popped by. Appreciate all the conversations. Obviously, I think we need to do a part 2 because I think we just barely scratched the surface. But that said, I'll turn it back over to Alex, and we'll get final words and get on with the weekend. Are you there, Alex? I can't hear you, brother. I don't know, maybe Alex is rugging. Well, if that's the case, Miro, you have any final words? Anybody else want to pop up and say, have a great weekend before we jump off here? If not, we'll get going.
Yeah, definitely my final words would be to hold on to your community, to hold on to your crowd, because most likely those are the people who will hold you back. And you can say, this is the people I trust, and I can build the product or the project around them. So that would be my final thought.
Oh, 100%, man, for sure. I mean, I think one of the things that I'll just leave you guys with, like anyone who's building, whether you're an artist or a founder or a developer, like don't be afraid to exclude, the negativity. And when I say negativity, I mean people who are going to drag your project down. Don't be afraid to exclude them. Ultimately, you want to be around people who are going to support your vision. And if you can't do that, then it's best to just have no relationship with them, right? And have the spine to do that, because you'll propel yourself much further, much faster. Alex, were you able to come back up or no?
Can you
I'm
hear me
hearing
now?
some static. Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
All right, man, perfect. So I was actually having a monologue for like a minute. Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and thank everybody for being here today, for speaking. I think crypto is relevant to all of us as we are all somehow involved at least. And yeah, special shout outs to Masan. We had a great mint yesterday. We look forward to next week. We look forward to speak to you guys again. As Jason said, there is definitely enough to talk about for a second part. So take care this weekend. I hope to see you guys next week, and goodbye.